So, carrot juice is one of the key elements to Kelley's program because carrot juice is one of the highest juices or substances for vitamin A. And there is a membrane that is around a tumor, and the enzymes can't get in through that membrane, but vitamin A dissolves that membrane. So you take a lot of carrot juice, and that helps dissolve the membrane so the enzymes get in where the tumor is, and they start to dissolve it. Now, when I left seeing Dr. Kelley, I was very excited about this, but it was not a faith-based therapy. I don't want to mislead anybody because a lot of people will discount this and say, well, you believed in it and the mind can do anything, and so you had a remission. And I believed in it because it made sense to me. It was the first therapy or science that I'd ever heard of that tied all of the elements together. And this was back in the early 70s before so many things that we now know about it and accept about it were even thought of back then. So it was something that I believed in. It seemed to scientifically make sense. But at the 3-month point, all the lymph nodes in my body started to get very swollen, and in my neck and under my arms. And I knew from what the doctors had told me that this is it. You're already in the 4th stage. Now it's been 6 months later. You've left our hospital. Your lymph nodes are all swelling up. You're dying. So that was a moment where I had to really question. So I called Dr. Kelley and I said, well, this is happening to me. He said, that's very normal because the tumors are breaking down now into your system and your lymph nodes are absorbing the poison out of your system. And then as long as you keep doing the enemas and you keep detoxifying and getting the poisons out of your body, you'll be fine. So I stayed with it, and about 6 weeks later I noticed everything went back to normal. But there was a period at the 3-month point where I became quite toxic. And he told me, stop the enzymes for a couple of days and let your body catch up, which I did. So the doctors had said at 10 months I might not be a survivor, but instead at 10 months I was very healthy, full of energy, able to do so much more than I could have done a couple of years previous. So as far as I was concerned, this worked. I was healthy. And in the medical profession, 5 years is a cure. So this was 33 years ago. By the way, there is a website that we have put up several years ago that Dr. Kelley approved, and he changed it as the years went on, added some things to it. It's drkelley.com, drkelley.com. There's no period between Dr. and Kelley spelled with an E. drkelley, drkelley.com. And the whole book, much thicker than that material, is on the web. So, after I was cured, I thought, well, all I got to do is write, the president. This is great news. President Carter, there's a cure to cancer. And I wrote all kinds of great scientists. I had a nice correspondence, very nice gentleman. His name was Linus Pauling, Dr. Linus Pauling. I think he's the only man, this is the only man that won 2 Nobel Prizes, one for chemistry and the Peace Prize. And he was the advocate, you might remember, he died a few years ago, but he was the advocate for vitamin C. And so I was trying to explain this program to him, but it's just such an overwhelming concept. And what's amazing to me now is that he was saying things that are now accepted 30 years later about the environment and about diet and all these things are now totally accepted even by medical doctors. But back then that was so radical. So since they have now accepted it, you would think that they would investigate this. But it's a $1 billion business. I hate to talk about the cancer medical profession in a negative way, but there's a lot of vested interest. There's billions of dollars at stake. One of the things that I did when I was about 18 or 19, I worked for a radio station in Montreal. And I didn't know at that point that I had cancer or was going to have it in a couple of years. But one of the exposés we did was we called up the 5 cancer institutes in Montreal. There was the American Cancer Institute, there was a Canadian, there was a Quebec one. There were 5. And so the morning man, I did the research, the morning man called them up and they were all very nice until he started saying, well, do you share any of your information with any of these other cancer institutes? No, we don't. well, would you plan the research so that you research such and such so you're not duplicating each other? No, we don't do that either. Well, do you share any of your laboratory? No, we don't. 5 of them, all raising money, completely not talking to each other. So even back then, it was known that this is a business after all. But there's, of course, many dedicated people. They're all dedicated. They all believe in it, but they just perhaps, there's an expression, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So, how can we get the word out? Well, I think we can do it by observing people like Jack, who is here tonight, alive, without having gone through chemotherapy or radiation. There's the media, there's the internet, there's word of mouth. And I admire Jeff and all the others who have brought groups like you together and given you this information, because that's how I was saved, is that people who cared in a health food store said about Dr. Kelley. We were at a health food store and we were saying, you know anything? Well, there's this Dr. Kelley. And so people pass the word around and it gets results. You wouldn't have a group like this if there weren't results. And so I just wish that more, and like you said about the nurse who finally admitted very publicly, I was impressed with that she was taking some of these alternative therapies. So attitude is very important, being very positive, that you can be in charge of your own health and your own life, and that you can make a difference. God helps those who help themselves. So I just wanted to thank you for inviting me here and for sharing my story, and God bless you all.